Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Bayern and Ajax move for Erik ten Hag because they believe he will be gone after the FA Cup final. Also, Sir Jim Ratcliffe apparently won't be making his decision until after the FA Cup final. Is this a good thing? Apparently there is a standoff between Ten Hag and Ineos as Ten Hag awaits a new contract that Ineos haven't offered yet. What is the big stalling factor? The names Potter and Tuchel have been put forward again, and this is all coming in from the same outlet this Sunday morning. We've also got an interview with Sky Sports News around Sir Jim Ratcliffe speaking about Manchester United being the kings of the North. We'll talk about what that's all about and the latest on De Zerbi if you're interested in that and what's going on there. A little bit of development overnight with Fabrizio saying he's unlikely to be Bayern Munich manager, but is he likely to be anybody's manager as that fallout from Brighton continues? And of course, Manchester United, final game of the Premier League season this afternoon. We'll have a watch along for you on that as well. But let's hit the news this morning. We're going to start off with this story in the Sunday Mirror. Now, look, the Mirror have traditionally in the Ten Hag era been pretty or appear to be pretty close to people close to Manchester United or Erik ten Hag, one or the other. However, this story is, I feel, well, make up your own mind. I'll read the story and then I'll give you my opinion. But basically what it's saying is that Bayern Munich and Ajax are in a tug of war for Erik ten Hag as both of them believe he will leave Manchester United after the FA Cup final, regardless of whether we win it or not. The reason for this is not really stating Ten Hag being sacked. It's almost a standoff between Ineos and Ten Hag. Ten Hag wants Manchester United to negotiate a new contract with only 1 year left on his contract. Apparently this hasn't been sorted yet. So there could even be a scenario where Ten Hag walks to go to Bayern or Ajax and waives his £10 million payoff, which he would get if he was sacked. Why this would happen, it doesn't really make much sense to me, but look, that is the news this morning. And as I've said to you before, on a Sunday morning in the UK, we have specific Sunday outlets like the Sunday Mirror. All through the week, it's the Mirror. We have the Sunday Times. All through the week, it's the Times. It's different journalists and it's different editors. So this story is obviously something that's been worked on exclusively for the Sunday Mirror this morning. And in essence, what it basically says is, no decision until after the FA Cup final. No contract has been sorted out for Erik ten Hag. And Bayern Munich and Ajax are both interested in Ten Hag and expect him to be available after the FA Cup final. Look, my general thought on this is Bayern Munich don't have a coach, so and neither do Ajax. So Erik ten Hag would be, at this stage, I think he'd be a good option. He'd certainly be a good option for Ajax. He's proven there, and I think he could do it in his sleep. I think for Bayern Munich it would be a good option as well. But I have to say that I don't actually believe the story. Now, you can believe the story, and I'll tell you why I don't believe the story. It goes on to mention Thomas Tuchel and Graham Potter being high priority targets if Ten Hag goes. And yet David Ornstein said 48 hours ago they're not high priority targets. So it feels to me like the story feels to me like it may have some semblance of truth, but it's almost like the mixture of a bad cake. Instead of eggs and flour, somebody's decided to put a bit of toothpaste in or something like that, because it doesn't quite taste right to me, this story. And I'll tell you for why. I don't feel that Bayern Munich are waiting on Erik ten Hag. I don't. I think they've obviously tried to get other coaches, so I don't think they're waiting on Erik ten Hag at all. I don't think Ajax and Bayern Munich have got any concept of whether Erik ten Hag is leaving Manchester United with or without the FA Cup. I also don't think Ineos are looking at Thomas Tuchel and Graham Potter because of what credible people have said about that. And if they are looking at people like that, it makes me want to cry. So I just think there's too many holes in the story. Where I do think that there is some truth is that I think that there is, for some reason, this delay going on, and it could be coming from Ten Hag's side and it could be coming in from Ineos' side, and we spoke about this on Friday night, and this was something that I got told on Friday. And if you didn't watch the Friday night show, yes, I was a little bit drunk and it was probably not the right show to reveal a bit of information, but what I've been told is that actually what's going on here is negotiation. Because Erik ten Hag's contract under the Glazers was very much veto on signings and sales, quite rightly, Ineos want to build a new structure around transfers where nobody has that one power, where it's more of a board decision between Barada, between Ashworth when he comes in, even Blanc on the board, Ten Hag. There's more of a discussion around what the vision of the football club is and a collective agreement on things rather than one person having the veto. So it's a change in contract for Ten Hag. And I think when Ten Hag said after the Newcastle game that it's a long answer about whether he's staying or not, because I think he is in a good position. I just think that there's negotiations going on about what suits everybody. Now, stories about Bayern Munich and etc. like that. Well, look, is it far-fetched that Erik Ten Hag would have an escape route out of Manchester United if things didn't go well? Everybody talks about Ten Hag being sacked, but we've just seen with De Zerbi, he wasn't sacked. It was a mutual parting of ways. And maybe that's what's going to happen in 2024. Maybe we're going to see managers and clubs who part ways because they don't have the same vision, which is, we can talk about Brighton in a minute, but maybe Ten Hag will go, I don't like the look of this contract that you're giving me. I've got offers out elsewhere. Let's waive the 10 million and I'm out. I'm off to Bayern or something like that. That could happen, especially with so many clubs looking for managers at the moment. So I don't buy into the story that Ajax and Bayern know that Erik Ten Hag's leaving his job. But with all due respect, it might not be impossible that Erik Ten Hag's representatives are keeping Bayern Munich and Ajax in the loop in case things don't go to plan with Manchester United and a new contract. I thought there was a +1 option on Ten Hag's contract, says Rory. I don't know. I know there's 1 year on it. Billy Murch, welcome to Members Club. And Gio says, tomorrow I'm off to watch my local team, Crawley FC, make history at Wembley. Can you big up all the United OG Red Devil fans making their way up to London? Says Gio, up to London. There you go. Good luck to Crawley. So I think as well, what we need to do here as well is, and look, it's always the elephant in the room for some, if Manchester United were to part ways with Erik Ten Hag, where are you going to go? Like, you really are still looking at the three names that, well, certainly give me nightmares, and I would expect probably give you. The three names that just keep hanging around like a fart are Gareth Southgate, Graham Potter, and Thomas Tuchel. I don't see anything beyond that for Ineos, and I think they are massively, massively bad appointments for various reasons. I don't see anything else. Now, people are going to start shouting De Zerbi. In fact, Richard Jack, perfect timing. What we've been told about De Zerbi is that this was almost like a sacking / fallout / mutual parting of ways, because De Zerbi can't just walk away from that contract. So we were speaking to somebody last night and they were saying he can't just walk away from that contract. He can't just say, I'm not working for Brighton anymore and now I'm going to work for Man United or Juventus or Bayern Munich. There is a release clause in his contract. He's bound by that. So for him to be out of that, and nobody's got the bottom line on this at the moment, but you have to follow the facts. De Zerbi would have cost 10 to 20 million pounds for Liverpool to get if they wanted to replace him with Klopp. So that is there. So if he's left Brighton, they've had a conversation, Brighton and De Zerbi. And it might well be that, and if you read some of the comments that De Zerbi said, there is really I think a mixed vision there. I think De Zerbi wanted more involvement in transfers, and obviously at Brighton you don't have any involvement in transfers. So I think there was a conflict of vision. And they've obviously mutually worked their way out of that. But Brighton are not stupid. They took £100 million off Chelsea for Caicedo. They're not going to say to De Zerbi, OK, you can leave, and then tomorrow he's Bayern Munich manager or Juventus manager or Manchester United manager, and Brighton don't get any money. It's yet to come out what the severance package for De Zerbi is, and I'm sure it will come out. But either he goes to another club this summer and Brighton gets some money, or he won't manage for a year as part of the exit clause. One of those things will happen. It'll either be some sort of gardening leave where you don't manage another club for a year or 6 months, or he'll go and manage another club and the release clause will get paid. But you can't. Too many people want to sweep that under the carpet, and we don't have the evidence for that. And why would Brighton do that? He had a release clause. He's not just going to be able to walk away for free and join another club for free, unless Brighton literally have said, yeah, we want rid of you, get out, and it's technically a sacking, which if he's been sacked, then obviously there could still be some sort of a thing there. But you've got to follow the evidence. There was a release clause for De Zerbi, and it's not just going to disappear just because he's parted ways with Brighton. So I don't know whether he's going to take a bit of time out from football, or whoever's going to get him is going to pay that release clause. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The interesting thing is, if he's not going to Bayern Munich, I don't think Barcelona, Man United really have got the money to be paying release clauses for De Zerbi. So maybe he'll just take a bit of time out of football. His stock will still be high. Maybe he'll just take a bit of time out. Sanil, thank you very much. Welcome to Members Club. And Joseph says, can't be talks to put some pressure on Ineos. Look, I think if you're Eric Ten Hag, there are, and you want that new contract at Manchester United, then it's always good if you've got people interested in you. And absolutely, I think there will be people interested in him. But I would take this story this morning with a pinch of salt. As I said, the story says that Man United are going to wait till after the FA Cup final. Bayern Munich and Ajax think he's going to leave no matter what. And Ten Hag is frustrated about, the lack of a contract being sorted out for him. And that Tuchel and Potter are two names that will be in the frame if Eric Ten Hag leaves. And as I said, it just feels like a culmination of stories over the last 2 months that have been put together to form one story. And you can get that. But I don't believe Thomas Tuchel and Graham Potter are high on the list for Manchester United. And I don't believe that Bayern or Ajax know that Ten Hag's leaving. But what I would say is Ten Hag's people may well have been in contact with them and said, look, if it doesn't work out here, let's talk, and that might be what's going on there. But I go back to, just before we talk about Sir Jim Radcliffe's comments this morning, I go back to what I've said a few times. I don't really understand why we're waiting until after the FA Cup final. I don't understand that at all. There is a look. We're coming out of a Glazer nightmare where everything took way longer than it should have done, and I don't expect, unfortunately, things are going to change overnight. But where we are as a football club on the 20th of May is we've got to be very wary of where we were a year ago. This time last year, there was people in this chat and in this fan base that were talking about Qatar getting the club by the end of June and then buying big players in July and August. Like, that was literally going on a year ago. And it was going back by the week. If we can get Qatar in by end of July, we could still buy players. We never got Qatar in at all. We never even got Sir Jim in until Christmas. So are we starting to step into this world again where we've potentially already messed up this summer transfer window because too many things are taking too long to do? And the reasons for that could be justified. But what I mean by that is we don't have a director of football at all. John Murtaugh's gone. Richard Ashworth isn't here. Richard Ashworth isn't the guy. Richard Ashworth isn't going to be here. He bloody sings for the Verve. Well, he doesn't sing for them anymore. Happiness. I'm here, everybody. I'm a lucky man. I don't know how I've got the director of football job, but I'm a lucky man. I meant Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth is definitely a guy that is not here. And that's a problem for Manchester United's summer transfer window. Barada doesn't come in till July. We've got a lot of players to sell. We've only really got Jason Wilcox and Blanc and Ten Hag. And we haven't even decided what we're doing with Ten Hag yet. All I know is, and I've said it so many times, is I don't understand the obsession with the FA Cup final. And it makes me jump from one side to the other. Because I think the FA Cup final is the end of the season. So announce Ten Hag's leaving. That makes sense. Get to the end of the season. That's why they're waiting. On the other hand, get to the end of the season, see what happens at the end of the season, stick with Ten Hag. And then the third option is we should just be sticking with Ten Hag anyway because there's been so much disruption at this football club. So many managers have been thrown under the bus when it wasn't their fault. Why are we sacking another manager? So they're the three options. And I don't really understand what's going to happen with all of those at the moment. I think that it's really interesting to say that anybody would have any concept of what's going on, really. I just don't understand the obsession with the FA Cup. We're on the 19th of May. The FA Cup doesn't happen until the end of May. And from tomorrow, most Premier League clubs don't have any games, apart from Man City. they will be working exclusively on transfers and departures from tomorrow. You know, that's what's going to happen. And United are preparing for an FA Cup final. So we lose a week anyway. And then we don't even know who the bloody manager is. So how many more weeks do we lose? Look, Jadon Sancho's the prime example. Jadon Sancho won't be a Man United player next season under the current system. But if Erik ten Hag goes, does Jadon Sancho come back to Man United, to Carrington, and say, I want to have another try? Should he be allowed to come back and have another try? All these things, I mean, it's nothing to do with Jadon Sancho, but what I'm saying is, by sacking Ten Hag or not making a decision on Ten Hag, we're just opening up a world of uncertainty around players that probably should be going and players that should be coming in. I mean, who are the transfer targets if Ten Hag goes as well? I mean, nobody talks about this enough. We know that we're interested in Todibo, a Ten Hag target, Frimpong, a Ten Hag target, Elise, a Ten Hag target. Like, these are players that have been signed off by Erik ten Hag. If we sack Erik ten Hag, do we continue signing Erik ten Hag targets because they fit the vision, but then we remove the manager? I'm very, very concerned about what, and I'm, well, concerned, confused is the better word, as to what United's plan is under Ineos at the moment, because it doesn't seem, as football fans, the most obvious thing in the world as an owner is to have your football fans on side. And I don't know what our vision is. And you don't know what that vision is. And there's no reason to keep your fans in the dark. In fact, rule number one of football, owning a football club, is keep your fans on side and communicated with. And we're almost running a football club at the moment like it's a bloody mafia. It's all cloak and mirrors. It's all, is this, and I've got to be honest, I don't like the way Ineos are running Man United at the moment. I don't. It feels very, it's way better than the Glazers. They were bloody awful. But I still think the communication's terrible. And look, that might be controversial, but I don't think it's good. Tell me where the communication's been good from Ineos. At the moment, look, and it's chaos. I want them to do well. And it might be the sheer volume of work they've got to do, in fairness. I'm not digging them out, saying Ineos out. But the communication's not good enough. It feels very aloof. It feels very distant. And I don't want it to become arrogant. But they're not communicating. Like, what is the plan for the summer? What is the plan going forward? Who are you even considering as a Man United manager? Are you actually listening to fans at all? I mean, you don't have to follow what fans want, but are you listening to the weight of opinion that really is, please don't go and appoint certain managers that are journeymen failures or not good enough for this football club or have got no identity towards it. I don't want to see Manchester United become a football club that is run by a group of people who think they know better than billions of other people or millions of other people. They have to make their own decisions, but you have to communicate with the fans. And I think the communication's not good enough at the moment, because why are we lurching towards the end of the season without any public, communication? I know we don't have a director of football. I know we don't have a CEO. But we can learn so much from Bayern Munich and Dortmund in the way that they communicate with their fans. The manager does talk to fans through the press, but the CEO and the director of football does as well. And we need some of that. And maybe we will get that at the end of the season when we start to get a vision. But it's been a really hard couple of months as a Man United fan, and nobody talks to us. The only guy talking to us is Erik ten Hag, and some people don't want him here, a lot do. But where's the leadership from that football club? At the moment, it just feels a bit... I dread to say it, but it almost feels like there is a bit of a political battle going on between the Glazers and Ineos about whether we should talk to the press, whether we should talk to the fans, or what can be said to the fans. And I think that this is really important. I know there's excitement about what's going to happen with the FA Cup and what's going to happen afterwards and what's going to happen with the summer, and I'm excited by that as well. But we do need to be communicated with. We've had 20 years of being feeling like mushrooms in the dark, and that shouldn't be happening. And Ineos need to grab hold of this. And my concern is that we've got, we're nearly in June. We don't know who the manager is. We don't know what's happening with recruitment. We don't know what's happening with sales. We don't know when the director of football is going to come in. Which is a massive thing, by the way. Not having your director of football because it's locked up in a court case is incredibly bad, because the director of football is probably one of the most important people at the football club in relation to recruitment, vision, etc. We don't have one because it's locked up in a court case with a rival. So what is happening and why is it happening so slow. I don't get the obsession with the FA Cup final. I don't. Every time I work through it, I come to a different conclusion. It could be as simple as that's the last game of the season, sack Ten Hag on the Sunday. It's, as I said, it could be, let's see what the result is. If we lose, sack him. If we win, keep him, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't be judging the next 3 years on whether you can beat a better Man City side in an FA Cup final. Or it could be, the season's over now, we're sticking Ten Hag, there's his new contract, let's go into the summer positively. And then it could be any of those three. Sanil says, a loss won't affect the decision, how we lose could. But for me, it shouldn't. Erik Ten Hag would be silly to trust Ineos as well, says John. I'm sure he has a backup plan. Whether or not Ineos make a decision on him, Ineos have been poor about this, says John. Yeah, and I think that, look, I go back to what I was told on Friday. Negotiations are what's going on with Ten Hag and Ineos. And it might upset people who want to call Ten Hag a bold fraud. But the bottom line is, I think Ten Hag will have options. I definitely don't think he wants to be a manager out of a job next season. So if I had an agent and I was in Ten Hag's position, honestly, I would be having conversations with Ajax, Bayern Munich, Juventus, Barcelona, and just saying, if this doesn't work out with Man United, then what do you think? Because that's the obvious thing. And look, again, I know I'm talking to those people that don't rate Ten Hag. I do. A lot of people do. And I think he'd be a very good manager at other clubs. So I think that, he's right to look at other options. We should have got Cole Palmer instead of Mason Mount. That was never going to happen. He was at Man City, Stephen. Good morning, Mark. Can you please call my friends Johan and Nishan Prats Ten Hag in, by the way? That's from Raffo. Just a big shout out to everybody who tuned in last night for the Tyson Fury fight, by the way, on That's Football, or as it was, That's Boxing. Absolutely loved it. Bit tired this morning, but remember, it's final day. It's Premier League final day today. Manchester United are playing Brighton, 4 o'clock kickoff. So we'll have countdown to kick off from 2:30. Watch along kicks off at 4 o'clock. Final game of the Premier League season. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to talk about Sir Jim Radcliffe's comments now, but I'm really looking forward to it because we've got an FA Cup final in 6 days, and if you want to play in that FA Cup final, I think you've got to get minutes on the pitch today. So the likes of Martinez, Marcus Rashford, maybe Mason Mount, certainly Rafael Varane, Victor Lindelof, these players have to be involved today. And not only that, these players need to play well today because it's an FA Cup final against Man City. So also you mix into that, it's De Zerbi's last game. Those players are going to want to put on a good performance. So I know there's a lot going on in the Premier League, but personally I think it's quite boring. I think we've been there before with Man City, against QPR. I feel for Arsenal fans. You should just go out and have a barbecue. You've got absolutely no chance. Do not get your hopes up about West Ham getting a result at Man City. Won't happen. Genuinely, not even doing it for jinx. Not going to happen. 4th place is already Aston Villa's. Relegation is already done. Chelsea will end up getting 5th. So it's the most boring final day ever. Apart from, for us, I think our game's the best game because Brighton are a team that want to play football and it's De Zerbi's last game and it's away from home. I think this is perfect. If I was Erik Ten Hag, I would be smiling like a Cheshire cat. Do Cheshire cats? Why do Cheshire cats smile more than other cats? What about a Birmingham cat or a Devon cat? But if I was Erik Ten Hag, I'd be over the moon. I'm really excited about this game. The FA Cup final will be massive next Saturday. We'll be massive underdogs, but it's still a final, and I'm excited about it. But in preparation for an FA Cup final, do you want to be playing Sheffield United at home, or do you want to be playing Brighton away, who are playing their last game for their manager in a hostile crowd, who also play possession-based football? This is perfect. You couldn't probably pick a better game for Man United in preparation for the FA Cup final. A team that will 100% not abandon the way it wants to play, to the extent of it's almost damaging them because they won't play a different way. They're going to play out from the back. They're going to be high energy. And it's away as well. So I think it's the perfect preparation for Manchester United ahead of the FA Cup. And I'm really looking forward to it. Mark, you've been targeted for being happy with... what? Tom says, Mark, you've been targeted for being happy when United dominated but unhappy with City's reign. What would you say to those critics? They're thick. Get back up your mum's chuff. I mean, I lived it. I don't need to. It's Sunday, isn't it? But bloody Sunday, mate. Tom, there is anybody that tries to compare Man United's dominance with Man City's juggernaut dominance was living up their mum's chuff or a thick. There's no comparison. There's absolutely none. There's 115 reasons why there's a difference, of course there is. But in 2007, Man City didn't exist. And in 2024, they're dominating the English football scene. Work that out. How does a team go from doesn't really exist to dominating football? Money. Money. Man City are too good. Man United won Premier League titles, but if that Man United team was playing today, we might not win it against Arsenal. Like we didn't win it in 98 because Arsenal were better than us. Like we didn't win it in 95 because Blackburn were better than us. Like we didn't win it in 2005 and 2006 because Chelsea were better than us. Like we had genuine rivalries where it was close. We won a lot of Premier Leagues, but we didn't do it through having vast amounts of money more than anybody else did. We actually had genuine rivalries where it was close, and sometimes we didn't win the league. Man City, I know they're going to win the league. I know they're going to win the league, and I know why they're going to win the league, and I know why they'll win it next year. It wasn't... There were a couple of... Look, to be honest with you, the most dominant period we had, most people would be up their mum's chuff, because it was probably 94, around that time, where we were really better than everybody else. But even then, Villa and other teams gave us a push. So we always had some... I mean, look, we won the double in 96. We were 12 points behind Newcastle. So we won a lot of Premier League titles, but, you know, look at Sir Alex Ferguson in 13. Man City were very, very close to us. We've always had teams that have pushed us really, really close. Man City, they've had no Kevin De Bruyne for half a year, and they're still going to win the bloody title. Like they're just too good. And I don't know why people want to talk about this, because what they don't want to listen to is, I'm not saying you don't deserve the title. You are just so much better than everybody else because of the wealth you have. Like, you've literally got world-class players on your bench for every position. Look at your goalkeeper. Your goalkeeper is better than David Raya, who is Arsenal's goalkeeper. Like, I genuinely think Ortega versus Raya is a debate. And that's their backup goalkeeper. Like, they've got the best manager in the world. They've got the amazing infrastructure. They've got amazing players on their bench. They can spend £90 million on Vardy and play him at left back. They're an amazing team. But they're an amazing team because they can do things other teams can't do. And the reasons for that are up for debate. But what Man City fans won't do is they'll try and compare their dominance and ruining of modern football with Man United winning loads of Premier League titles. But it wasn't like that when we were winning titles. Like, look at the 99 documentary, the greatest Man United side there's ever been. We won it on the final day, 2-1 against Spurs. And I tell you what, actually, I just want to say that, all those. If I was an Arsenal fan, I would pull Spurs up on this. So, since when did Spurs just become absolute bottle jobs? Because I'm watching that 99 documentary. Man United are playing Spurs at Old Trafford, and Man United need to win, because if we draw an Arsenal win, which they did, they win the league. Spurs come to Old Trafford, we only beat them 2-1, and they gave us a bloody good game. So since when did Spurs decide to bottle jobs and down tools? Like, because you didn't do it in 99, I'll tell you that for fucking free, and you weren't trying to get Champions League football then. I mean, it was a real eye-opener in how Spurs have suddenly changed into being absolutely an Arsenal shadow, because that's a true story. Final day of the 99 Premier League season, we had Spurs at Old Trafford, and we had to beat Spurs to win the league. Well, if that was today, Spurs are going to send up the kids. They didn't. They went 1-0 up, and they gave us... I remember watching it. They gave us a bloody good game, so... Surely Spurs would just go, well, beat us 8-0 because it's Arsenal, but they didn't. So it shows the deterioration of Spurs, doesn't it? That they're now happy to sit in their own ground when they've got a chance of Champions League football and celebrate Man City beating them. Yet in 99, same scenario, and they're away, and it's a dead rubber game, and they actually tried. Weird, isn't it? They did give us a good game. Daniel Young has gifted 10 memberships. Absolute legend, mate. Absolute legend. Sorry for getting onto that. Chris says Spurs literally played well against City. Yeah, they did, didn't they, mate? They were brilliant. They were so focused, and they played absolutely fantastic. Robert says, greetings from Romania. That's why their manager Eric that's why their manager Ange Postecoglou was absolutely fuming afterwards and called out the integrity of people inside and outside the club. Robert says, greetings from Romania. I just hope we keep Ten Hag and we make a few proper transfers this time. Transfers for the future and at the right price, and slowly being to look like a proper big team, says Robert. Well, let's talk. Thank you. I agree with you, Robert. I hope that just happened. Got a few comments from Sir Jim Radcliffe here. I mean, I find them quite boring because they're actually about the stadium, which is absolutely fine. But I actually want some communication about the club and the team and the manager. But he said there's a very good case, in my view, for having a stadium of the north, which is what he never shuts up about, which would serve the northern part of the country in that arena for football. If you look at the number of Champions League, the Northwest has won, it's 10, London has won 2. Everybody from the north has to get down to London to watch a big football match, and there should be one in the north, in my view. But it's also important for the southern side of Manchester, to regenerate. It's the sort of second capital of the country where the Industrial Revolution began. But if you have a regeneration project, you need a nucleus or a regeneration project, and having that world-class stadium there, I think, would provide the impetus to regenerate that region. I mean, look, publicly, it's also Jim talks about the stadium, and it will be funded partly by government investment. I think we'll own our stadium, but I think it'll be the infrastructure around it. Man United need a new stadium, there's no doubt about it. But I'll be honest with you, it's just not that, that's going to take years. I'd rather we just, that's all nice and that's to come. And I do agree with him that we should have a big stadium in the north. I do agree with that. But I want to just get on with the now. That new stadium's going to take years to build. It's not going to stop having to watch what we're watching at the moment, and it's not going to stop this cycle of sacking managers, and it's not going to stop the fact that every other club is building better squads than us and seem to have better visions than us. Like, this just feels a little bit, like I say, formulaic. Oh, we're going to build a new stadium. What does building a new stadium mean? It generates money-making opportunities. We've already heard about, we want to make it a match day experience. We want to keep people at the ground after the game with entertainment and money and buying food and this, that, and the other. I get all that. But the new stadium is about money. It's about regeneration and generation of more funds for Manchester United. And I want to see some changes now, whatever they are, around the vision of what we're doing as a football club, because you've got 15 to 20 players there, Sir Jim, that many people would sell. You need to probably buy 7 or 8. What are you doing with the manager? Why is the director of football not here? Like, these things are already disrupting next season. Like, next season, we need to be in the Champions League. Chelsea have been outside the Champions League for 2 years. It can happen. So, yeah, we need to get moving with things like that. Just finished 99. I hope the squad watch that all together and believe in themselves for the FA Cup final. Then they're good enough when they work hard, says Nick James. And Stephen says, League won't charge City as UK needs the oil. And Prajwell says, if we bought by Qatar, would you value our winning? I think you're taking a massive leap there, mate. So what you're trying to say, that if Man United bought by Qatar, we'd be the same as Man City? Well, we wouldn't, because the financial fair play rules have changed, so we wouldn't be able to do that. So Saudi Arabia is not the same as Abu Dhabi. Newcastle is not the same as Man City. Newcastle can't pump in the money that Man City did because they're not allowed to. The rules aren't there. So any rich owner you get now can't even replicate. It was always a stupid, flawed argument from people who didn't actually do their homework, that they didn't want Qatar because we don't want to end up like Man City. But then they didn't look at the rules in the Premier League now. You can't do that. So there were genuinely people out there going, I don't want Qatar to own Man United because I don't want us to end up like Man City. And it was like, but we can't. We can't. Why are Newcastle not buying Mbappe then? Because they can't. Financial fair play has changed. Like you're not allowed to just pump in wealth from outside if the club doesn't generate it. So you can't even do that anymore. So the moral issue of Qatar was a completely different one. But those people who say, "No, I want to do it properly. I want to do it where we generate our own money." Well, we would have had to do that anyway. But there were people out there pontificating on TV and other outlets going, "I don't want Qatar because I want to do it the pure way. I want to do it in a way where we have to use our own money." Yeah, like we would have to under Qatar, like we have to under everybody. Anyway, thanks, Mark. Good answer. Love the show, says Tom. Thank you very much, mate. Yes. Well, look, thanks, everyone. It was only meant to be a bit quick show this morning, but it is a Sunday. And 12,000 of you tuning in. Hopefully, see you all for the watch along later. I'm excited about this game. I think it's a good game for Manchester United ahead of the FA Cup. Big build up this week. And the perfect team to play. And I think it'd be very interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting what happens with Rashford, actually. I think I would start Rashford today and rest Garnacho. But if Garnacho misses out on the FA Cup final, that's bad. That's really bad. You've got to look across how we got to the FA Cup final. You've got to look at the season. I think Garnacho's struggling at the moment because he's burnt out. But to not have him start the FA Cup final and bring Rashford in would be really harsh on Garnacho, I think. So interesting. If Rashford has a good game today, that will further that possibility. Let's see what happens. Sanil says, if we keep Ten Hag, it'll be a massive pressure to get wins right away next season or be sacked. To hire a new manager might be a better risk for the owners. I completely disagree with that, Sanil, because if you keep Ten Hag, it's what the fans want. And if the results go bad, then the fans will turn on Ten Hag, which is good for Ineos if it goes bad. If you sack Ten Hag and people don't agree with it, and then it goes bad with the new manager, it puts more pressure on Ineos. So I actually think from an Ineos point of view, they're better off keeping Ten Hag because they can go, well, look, like most fans, we wanted to give him a chance under a new structure and he's sunk, so we'll move him on. Whereas if you get rid of a manager that most people think should be given a chance and you bring a new manager in and he fails, that's on Ineos, and the fans will be like, well, you did this. De Zerbi to Milan, AC Milan. I don't know whether that's true. I'll have a quick look. It might just be somebody in the chat. I tell you what is breaking. Man United are holding talks about Adrien Rabiot and a free transfer. I've told you that for months. Months and months and months. I said it the other day as well. Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Take care, everyone. I will see you on the watch along later. I'm looking forward to it. It's a lovely day in the UK as well. So take care if you're out and about. And I will speak to you all in a bit. Take care. Legend.